Let's tackle the most debated, the biggest hot topic in the vintage stereo hobby. How far should you go with a restoration? There seems to be two radical camps with this topic. On one side, you have the, if it's not broke, don't fix it. On the other side, you have the replace every single component in that thing. This is a question that gets debated here at the shop and the online forums all the time. And every time it does, you're almost guaranteed to see this meme. And there are good arguments on both sides that could push you into one camp or the other. Let's look at the pros and cons of both sides. Is there a happy medium? Hopefully after watching this video, you might be able to save yourself from asking the question, did I just ruin my vintage piece of stereo equipment? We are talking about 40 to 50-year-old pieces of electronics here with capacitors, transistors, resistors, IC chips, thermistors, solder connections that are hanging on for dear life. What could possibly go wrong? And several of the pros with the if it ain't broke, don't fix it camp are really obvious. Cost is a big one. You buy it, it works. What's the problem? Not to mention finding a technician can be really difficult, especially for those of you that don't live in a major city. A lot of people with this viewpoint also claim that if you change out a lot of the components, is it even going to sound the same? It won't sound original. They also claim that shipping your vintage piece of stereo equipment could cause more problems than what was there originally. And I get that. I kind of agree. So you can see why this approach is so alluring. And the first thing that pops in my head when I start thinking about the cons to if it ain't broke, don't fix it, Clint Eastwood. Well, do ya? It is a dice roll. Just having a technician look over your amplifier receiver, you can visually spot bulging capacitors or leaking capacitors. So many times we've had people bring in a vintage receiver or amplifier that's working. There's no distortion. It sounds good. We pop the top off and lo and behold, we have bulging capacitors. They have vented and have actually started to leak. And unfortunately with electronics, once one component fails, a lot of times it starts a chain reaction that is going to turn into an expensive repair. So just getting it to a technician, having them do a visual inspection, check a couple voltages here and there, at a minimum, they should be able to get a pretty good idea if anything needs further servicing. And in this case where you do have capacitors that have drifted so far out of value, you might have corroded transistors. For those that say, if you put new components in, is it going to sound original anyway? The devil's advocate to that would be, does it sound original now in its current state with so many components that are not in spec, that their values have drifted? I think we can all agree there are more technicians retiring than there are new technicians getting into the hobby. And I know this doesn't apply to everyone, but if you do know a technician, it might be a good idea just to get it over to them and have them look it over. See if there's anything glaring or anything out of value they should replace. You know, maybe with AI robots, maybe it won't be an issue at all. It's possible. And I'm going to use the term full restoration loosely. Everybody kind of has their own definition of what that means. To some, it might be change out every single component. To some, it might be all the capacitors or the power supply and filter caps. You see these kits on eBay with 150 different components in it. And to a lot of people, that might be a full restoration. Personally, I look at it more as a significant amount of components got replaced. And I think most people get a restoration done just to improve the odds that that piece of equipment's going to stay working for a long time. I don't think they're trying to change the sound. Most people I talk to about restoration are looking for reliability, getting that piece back to spec. And honestly, that's the only thing I can think of for pros with a restoration. Giving your piece of electronics the best chance it has to continue working and sound the best it can. I don't know if you can think of another one, put it in the comments, but that's all I got. Increased longevity. And the cons are actually pretty weighted with a full restoration, one being the cost. It's tedious, time-consuming work. And for a lot of technicians, they actually don't enjoy that aspect of it. I think a lot of technicians enjoy the troubleshooting more. They like trying to figure out the problem more than replacing parts. Soldering iron, desolder, set aside, grab new one, put it in. It's kind of boring. And so for a lot of reasons, it's kind of costly. It really doesn't take that much to get past the value of your piece of equipment by doing a full restoration. On top of that, you've got to find somebody you trust. You're going to be spending a good chunk of money to get it restored. You want somebody that knows what they're doing. And then you have the debate of the new components, the new capacitors, transistors aren't as good as the ones they originally used back in the 70s, in the 80s. And there might be some validity to that, depending on the capacitors and where the technician is sourcing them from and how much you want to spend. It's just like everything else. You could buy capacitors that might cost 10 cents a piece, all the way up to $4 a piece or more. And the not sounding original applies with this one as well. A lot of people will claim that the new capacitors, the new transistors are going to change the sound. And personally, I feel like if you can hear that nuanced difference, you've got golden ears. And good on you. I just do not think I could hear the difference. And it'd be really almost impossible to A and B it, because you'd have to go off your memory of what it sounded like before the restoration was done. And I don't recommend doing that, because you'll be stuck in your head wondering if it's the weather, the room, the music, the mood you were in the last time you heard it before it was restored. Don't do that to yourself. It's brutal. I've seen it. Trust me. I think it sounded better before he worked on it. It definitely sounded better before. That's tough. And then a really big heavy con with this approach, it's still not bulletproof. Nothing in electronics is bulletproof. There are so many things that could go wrong, that could fail. Even if you replaced every single capacitor, every transistor, resistor, diode, everything. It's just the nature of electronics. And you might be thinking, well, is there a middle ground? Is there something reasonable? And I do think this comes down to a couple things, a couple questions you need to ask yourself. Does your piece have sentimental value? Because it is very easy with a full restoration to exceed the value of your piece of equipment. And if it does have sentimental value to you, is it worth the risk not to have it serviced? And that's something you really kind of have to weigh out for yourself. Nobody can tell you that. Not to mention, I've seen several times where people have their piece completely restored, full recaps with tons of component replacement. Later, they go to resell it and they realize that they're not even going to get the money back for the restoration. Again, it's kind of like a collectible car. Usually the person paying for the restoration never gets it back. Even with receipts, usually you're not going to get that money back. You know, for myself and my equipment, and most of the techs, I really trust their opinion. I think replacing the power supply capacitors is the best money you can spend to increase its longevity without exceeding the value of the piece. If you look at the power supply kind of like the heart or the engine of the amplifier or receiver, its job is to provide the voltages to all the other boards. And if you don't have the correct voltages coming out of the power supply, you're just really asking for trouble. I am not saying that either camps are wrong in this situation. That is just my personal opinion of where I want to put my money to increase the life of a piece that I really enjoy. That's really about it. And I know there are quite a few technicians out there that say, don't do anything to it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I'm not saying they're wrong, but I really think their opinion doesn't matter on this because they know how to fix it. And if you don't know how to repair vintage electronics or electronics in general, when they're retired, not answering their phone anymore, it's hard to call them up and say, I should have had it serviced. I should have had you change out some capacitors. I just think some of those soon-to-be retired techs aren't putting themselves into other people's shoes and thinking about how hard it's going to be for them to find somebody to do simple work or cap replacement. I'm definitely not throwing shade on any of the techs that have been in the trenches all these years. You guys, you people are on another level. This is not easy work, and you probably haven't been paid enough for what you've done. I just think we're going to have to get lucky that the cheap AI bots are going to come out before the techs are gone. Either way, both sides have valid points for sure. I have pieces of equipment that haven't been touched. I don't plan on doing any servicing on them at all. When they die, that's probably going to be the end of it. And then I have pieces that have had pretty extensive restoration, especially tube amplifiers with really high voltages. And I think this is just something you need to navigate for yourself. If you do need some pointers or you're looking for a technician in your area, definitely join our free Discord channel. That is an amazing community with over 1,000 active members. It's good people, it's good fun. We'll have a link in the description. Appreciate you watching another video. If you like this video, you should definitely watch that one. It's fun. Promise. Oh, like, subscribe, please. Pretty please. Thank you.